for all the participants and the resource persons. Today we are going to have a topic on machine learning for the big data from the Dr. J. Nafiza Begum ma'am. Welcome all to the session. So ma'am, you can just start with the session.
We can start, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes ma'am, but voice is too low.
Those websites she has given us now.
Slide visible.
Slides are visible ma'am, but voice is too low, so it's not audible.
Is it audible now, sir?
Yes ma'am.
Sir, I have shared the website links yesterday to madam.
Yes ma'am, we have shared with the participants also.
So, can we have that first, sir? Or in between we can see?
In between we'll see ma'am.
Okay. Good morning one and all present here. I am delighted to present these part 2 of my lecture for this FDP. So yesterday we have seen the basic algorithms, how the machine learning has evolved from artificial intelligence, and deep learning is a subset of machine learning. Today we will see some insight into how the data should be and what are the facilities which we have in Python for doing this machine learning. Okay, so let us start with data. As you all know, data is any unprocessed fact, value, text, sound or picture that is not being interpreted and analyzed. Data is the most important part of all data analytics, machine learning and artificial intelligence. Without data, we can't train any model and all modern research and automation will go in vain. Big enterprises are spending lots of money just to gather as much as certain data as possible. So we have been learning right from our career what is the difference between information, data and knowledge. So information is data that has been interpreted and manipulated and has now some meaningful inference for the users. Knowledge is the combination of inferred information, experiences, learning and insights. Results in awareness or concept building for an individual or organization. So that's why we have something called a knowledge base in all the systems which are supposed to be experts. So machine learning, we can say it's also an evolvement of expert systems. So now when we say knowledge, we will be discussing about we have knowledge with specific to that particular domain. Okay, as we saw, it's a combination of inferred information, experiences, learning and insight. We will also have something called meta knowledge, which is the knowledge about the knowledge, that is how the data is organized, all those things. So when we say data in machine learning, we should have three types of data, or we can say we are categorizing the data into three things. There should be some training data, validation data and testing data. So training data is the part of data we use to train our model. This is the data that your model actually sees both input and output and learns from. Second one is validation data. That part of the Am I audible, sir?
Ma'am, there's audio issue. We are not able to hear you.
How are you able to hear me? Okay, sir. I just thought of switching headphone, but there is some problem. I think I tried to.
Ma'am, microphone is not
Yeah,
working, I think.
directly. I thought if there is some disturbance, it could be avoided. That's why. Okay.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
have the validation data, which is part of data that is used to do a frequent evaluation of the model, fit on the training data sets, along with improving involved parameters. This data plays its part when the model is actually training. Okay, so we have to categorize the data as the initial some data which will be used for the training, and then some data which will be the validation data. And then we have the testing data. Once our model is completely trained, testing data provides an unbiased evaluation. When we feed in the inputs of testing data, our model will predict some values without seeing the actual output. After prediction, we will evaluate our model by comparing it with the actual output present in the testing data. This is how we evaluate and see how much our model has learned from the experiences feed in as training data set at the time of training. Okay, so the data will be categorized like this so that we try to improve the system as the machine learns. And you are all familiar with the properties of data: volume, variety, velocity, value, and veracity. It's such a big data. There are tons and tons of data. Okay, terabytes, more than that you have. And we need to manage all those things for an efficient system. So we all know that data processing plays a very important role. From a given form to a much usable and desired form, making it more meaningful and informative. So whatever data is available, it may not be in the form which we expect. So we need to perform some data processing so that it becomes the way which can take the which can be used with our programs. So using machine learning algorithms, mathematical modeling, and statistical knowledge, this entire process can be automated. So what the broad data which is available, we want it in which form? Okay, those things can also be done using algorithms. So the output of the complete process can be in any desired form like graphs, videos, charts, tables, images, and many more, depending on the task we are performing and the requirements of the machine. This might be simple when it comes to massive organization like Twitter, Facebook, parliaments, UNESCO, health organization. The entire process needs to be performed in a very structured manner because we are going to play with the data, and each data dictionary will have so many attributes or fields we should see how to link it and how we are going to manage a data or learn from a data which is going to be from multiple which will be from multiple tables. Okay, for example, we cannot have the data sometimes in a single table, so we may split that data in different tables, and there should be some things, some key which will make the data unique. That has to be identified, and we have to link the different tables so that we can perform it properly. Okay, so data processing involves the following activities which we are all familiar: collection, preparation, input, processing, output, storage. Once it is ready, then the data will be used by the learning algorithms. Okay, so collection. The most crucial step when starting with machine learning is to have a data of good quality and accuracy. There are many data sets available which can be used, and they can access, there are facilities available for getting the data. We can try to use that data because it has been collected and it has been structured in some format. So that because of the development of machine learning and other programs, also other facilities, we are having most of the data in the form of repositories. Then the collected data has to be analyzed, and then constructing a new data set for further processing and exploration. As I was telling, suppose you want to do a machine learning for some data, and that data is split into different things, or you have some data which is more than what is required, more fields. So you need to plan that, and we have to convert it prepare it so that it becomes ready. So an image can be converted to a matrix of n cross n dimension. The value of each cell will indicate the image pixel. It's an example of preparation of data. Then input. Now the prepared data can be in the form that may not be machine readable. So to convert the data to readable form, some conversion algorithms are needed. Okay, so data can be collected from different sources. Okay, Twitter comments, audio files. We need to convert that so that it can be in a machine readable form. This is the stage processing where algorithms and machine learning techniques are required to perform the instructions provided over a large volume of data with accuracy and optimal computation. In this stage, output stage, results are produced by the machine in a meaningful manner which can be inferred easily by the user. Example, output can be in the form of again a table, again a database, reports, graphs, videos, etc. This is the final step, storage, which the obtained output and the data model, all the useful information are saved for future use. So this is about the data processing. So when we say data analytics, machine learning algorithm for data analytics, we have seen what are the basic algorithms, how we can proceed based on the domain, how to develop which algorithm to use, etc. And the most important thing is data. So for data, we have seen we will have three sets of data: training data, validation data, and testing data. And when we are going to use that data, we cannot just use the raw data. We have a sequence of operations to be performed. We have to collect the data, prepare it, give it as an input, do the processing, output, then storage. Once it is complete, we will be getting the data which is ready for working with our programs. Okay, so it can be used for future use. That becomes an input for our next algorithm. Like that, it continues. So these are some of the things which I have come across. I have attended FDPs on this also, but I have not. I don't have a lot of experience in this. I have listed here as I have learned. Okay, so there are so many libraries in Python which can be used for working on data sets. So this is the sklearn library. It provides a great sample data set generator which will help you to create your own custom data sets. It is fast and very easy to use. So being the open source, every day we are coming across so many libraries which is going to help us in developing good machine learning algorithms. So this is the coding. We have to import and then we can use it. Okay, so I'm not going to explain each and everything. These things are available freely on the net. What are all the data? What are all the libraries that are available? In Python, we can create the data sets. Okay. We can also generate test data sets for machine learning. There are many websites. Sometimes it is useful to extract data and generate our own data set. It gives more control over the data and allows us to train our machine learning model. Okay, so to generate the random data sets using the NumPy library in Python, what are the things which are needed? We need to install the software and we have to proceed. And in many of the applications, we come across normal distribution for our statistical analysis. You have the mean and the standard deviation. So the mean is the central tendency of the distribution. The standard deviation is a measure of variability. It defines the width of the normal distribution. The standard deviation determines how far away from the mean the values tend to fall. So it fits many natural phenomena, for example, heights, blood pressure, measurement error, IQ scores, all these follow the normal distribution. So we are all familiar with the graph of normal distribution, and we can use our data set and try to generate this using the coding. Next, what are all the functions available? So this is with regard to the numeric data. You have numerical data, you want to study some distribution, you want to analyze. We have facilities where we can create a data set and use it for doing that. And next, when we want to use it for data pre-processing, we have seen that it refers to the transformations applied to our data before feeding it in the algorithm. It is a technique that is used to convert the raw data into a clean data sets. In other words, whenever the data is gathered from different sources, it is collected in raw format, which is not feasible for the analysis. So we have already seen what is the need for data processing. It needs information in a specific format. So it should be formatted in such a way that more than one machine learning and deep learning algorithms are executed in one data set, and best of them is chosen. So here what it is discussed is you can have you try to have a data which can be used across different algorithms, not confined to one algorithm. And specifically here, if you are running on a machine learning or a deep learning, we should be able to run that to see which one is more efficient. So 3 different data pre-processing techniques for machine learning are rescale data, binarize data, and standardize the data. So what do we mean by rescaling the data? You have a big database now. There is so much of data. It is comprised of attributes with varying scales. Many machine learning algorithms can benefit from rescaling the attributes to all have the same scale. This is useful in optimization algorithm and used in many machine learning algorithms, neural networks, algorithms that use distance measures, etc. So in this scikit-learn also, you have a scale, you have a class which will help in doing this operations. So Python code to rescale data between 0 and 1. So here I have listed the URL link and what is the coding available so that we can rescale the value in between these values 1 and 0 and 1. All the data has been rescaled. Okay, so those so you can here it, for example, it is given featured range 0 to 1. So accordingly, we can also modify our coding, and based on the requirement, we can do the rescaling. So rescale data, binarized data. We can transform our data using a binary threshold. All values above the threshold are marked as 1 and all equal to or below are marked as 0. This is called binarizing your data or threshold your data. It can be useful when you have the probabilities that you want to make crisp values. It is also useful when feature engineering and you want to add new features that indicate something meaningful. We can create new binary attributes in Python using the binarizer class available. Okay. So using this, all the values above a threshold will be made as 1 and all values below the threshold can be made as 0. So this is the second pre-processing date class available in Python for doing. Third one is standardization. Standardized data, it's a useful technique to transform attributes to a standard distribution with a mean of 0 and standard deviation of 1. Again, there is a possibility of or facility for using the class standard scaler for doing this operation. So the code for this that is given here, and how we perform. Now you can see there will be a based on the values which we want, the data is converted into this form. Okay, so I'll just repeat these 3 points or important points. When we are using the data, there is a need for pre-processing. So the 3 important functions which we need to perform before putting the data for the training is rescaling the data, binarizing the data, standardizing the data. So when you say rescaling the data, we can have a range of values and we can see decide that you can have the data between 2 specific values. So here the code for doing that available in Python is given here. And similarly, binary data is we decide a threshold and we convert the values so that all values above the threshold are marked as 1 and all below that are marked as 0. It is also used in many applications. So we have the binarizer class which helps in performing these things. So that is the code for binarization. And third one is standardized data. We have so many distributions. We can have the values across a distribution. So for that, we can have a we have the codes open source available for it. Okay, so there are many instances where we can train the data only if it is in a particular range. All other extreme values are not of concern for us, and it is going to unnecessarily take the resources or computing time. If you're going to run a data which is having a big skewness, but the output is anyhow going to be within a particular range. So that's why we go for this standardization of data. Okay, so next topic is data cleansing. You have to a large number of portion of our time is spent in cleaning the data. What is mean by cleaning the data is we have to concentrate on what is relevant. That is the main thing about data cleaning. Okay, so removal of unwanted observations, handling missing data, managing unwanted outliers, fixing structural errors. So these are the 4 things which are essential when you want to handle the big data. So as I told you, removal of unwanted observations. Like I said, we are only going to have an analytics or a machine learning algorithm which is going to identify what is the taste of people in a particular region. So all the other data collected from the customer, like micro level data, we can leave that, and only we can concentrate on, say, district wise or state wise. This applies to almost all the algorithms, whichever are trying to find out recommender systems or other analytics based on the region. So removal of unwanted observations. We also have to take care of missing data, then fixing structural error and managing the unwanted outliers. Okay. So what do you mean by removal of unwanted observations? Deleting duplicate, redundant or irrelevant values from your data set. So duplicate observations most frequently arise during data collection, and irrelevant observations are those that don't actually fit the specific problem that you are trying to solve. So the example I told you will come under the irrelevant observation, whereas sometimes you happen to collect duplicate observation of the same customer or same thing, so that can be avoided. Redundant observations alter the efficiency by a great extent as the data repeats and may add towards the correct side or towards the incorrect side, thereby producing unfaithful results. So we need to take care that there is only relevant data and there is no duplication and the data is correct. Okay, there should not be a major things, and we can also, for example, now we have where Aadhaar number or so using that we can also check whether a person is telling lies. Sometimes they will not give the correct state, so we try to identify which is the correct data so that it doesn't provide the unfaithful result. Irrelevant observations are any type of data that is of not use to us and can be removed directly. Okay, then fixing structural errors. These arise during measurement, transfer of data or other similar situations. They include typos in the names of features, the same attribute with a different name, mislabeled classes, that is separate classes that should really be the same, or inconsistent capitalization. Okay, so this is an what is meant by structural errors is we have to see whether we have given correct attribute names, or sometimes we have given 2 attributes with different which are actually a same with different names, mislabeled classes. All these things come under the structural errors. Okay, here an example is given. The model will treat America and America's different classes or values. I think here the one should be capitalization. I have put both as same. So here one simple example is we have to when the model will treat this and caps, sorry for that, caps in full. Okay, we will treat as different classes, so they both represent the same value. Or red, yellow and red, yellow as different classes or attributes, though one class can be included in the other two classes. So these things with regard to the structure of the data, any mistakes, any corrections need to be done to the structure of the data, that has to be taken care before we actually proceed. Okay. Similarly, managing unwanted outliers. Outliers can cause problems with certain type of models. For example, we should try to remove these things so that it will solve our issues. And then we also have the problem of handling missing data. Okay, sir. People want to create a bad system. They will intentionally leave or a system, okay, which tries to predict or give unfaithful result. It will try to have some this problem, that is missing data problem, that has to be taken care. We cannot just ignore or remove the missing observation. They must be handled carefully. Okay, so one thing is removing the duplicate. One thing is finding out what are all the important observations. Okay, so that can be done only if you have a expert requirement. That is very important. Okay, so the two most common ways to deal with missing data are dropping observations with missing values or inputting the missing values for past observations. Okay, so I hope this point is very clear. We come across situations where we are not able to we are having some observations, but the data is not complete. Some values are missing. So in that case, when we cannot use that data, or we find that there is a variation, we cannot use that data because we suspect that that data will be is going to create an unfaithful result. So for dealing with that, what we do is either drop the observation, or the best thing is inputting the missing values from the past observation. So these are the 4 things which we need to do with the big data. Okay. So removal of unwanted information, and then fixing structural error, handling missing data, managing unwanted outliers. Okay, so I just wanted to tell I hope this is clear. Managing unwanted outliers means outliers are nothing but an extreme value that deviates from the other observations in the data sets. You have a wide variation, okay, which is maybe due to some error that may have happened during the data collection or during some pre-processing. So that has to be removed. Okay, so sometimes it improves the performance, so we have to check properly and manage this outliers. Okay. So what are the tools available for cleaning the data? These are some of the tools available: OpenRefine, Trifactor Wrangler, TIBCO Clarity, Cloud-InGlow, and IBM InfoSphere Quality Stage. Okay. Next thing in Python is feature scaling. It's a technique to standardize the independent features present in the data in a fixed range. It is performed during data pre-processing. So suppose we are given a data set with features, age, salary, BHK apartment with data size of 5,000 people, each having these independent data features. So each label point is labeled as class 1 S, means that with the given age, salary, BHK apartment feature, one can buy the property. No means he cannot buy the property. So we have some facilities by which we have the mathematical functions, formulas, which can be used for finding out prediction of the class of new data points. We can use these things with the help of which the machine learning algorithm can identify whether the category is going to be a yes or no for a new class of employees. These are some of the examples by which the distance is calculated: Euclidean, Manhattan and Minkowski distance. Okay. Then another thing which is used for feature scaling. Okay, so we are now thinking about, okay, we have the data. Next, how do we put that data as data points, for which this is one technique. And we also have normalization, standardization, which will help us to put the data in a different range. Okay, so we have the Python code explaining the working of feature scaling on the data. We can use the formula. Okay, you have the built-in thing, min, max, scalar, and we can identify the original data values, and after min max scaling, what is the value, after standardization, what is the value, which will be very helpful in identifying or categorizing our data for a particular machine learning module. Okay. Label encoding of data sets in Python refers to converting the labels into numeric form so as to convert them into the machine readable form. So machine learning algorithm can then decide in a better way how those labels must be operated. It is an important pre-processing step for the structured data set in supervised learning. So we have a column height in some database. After applying label encoding, now we have the values. Okay, so 0 is the label for tall, 1 is the label for medium, and 2 is the label for short height. Okay, so this is also needed. Okay, so when the thing is involving numeric data, the program will be efficient. So in many cases, we need to internally do this label encoding so that the program performs faster. So we have facilities for that in Python where we can do this. Okay. So what is the limitation of label encoding? It converts data in machine readable form, but it assigns a unique number to each class of data. This may lead to generation of priority issues in the training of data sets. A label with high value may be considered to have high priority than a label having a low value. So this is the limitation of label encoding. Okay. Sometimes in data sets, we encounter columns that contain categorical features, string values. For example, parameter gender will have categorical parameters like male, female. These labels have no specific order of preference, and also since the data is string labels, the machine learning model cannot work on such data. One approach to solve this problem can be label encoding, where we will assign the numeric value to these labels. For example, male and female map to 0 and 1. But this can add bias in our model, as it will start giving again higher preference to the female parameter as 1 greater than 0, and ideally both labels are equally important in the data set. To deal with this issue, we use one-hot encoding technique. Okay, so consider the data where fruits and their corresponding categorical values and prices are given. After hot encoding the data, it will be as follows. Okay, so you can see here 1 0 0 0 for apple and mango, orange, and what is the price. Okay, so how do we implement the in hot encoding? So this is with regard to the data for employees, employee ID, gender, remarks. Okay, what will be the output? Okay, so the idea is we should give equal priority for all the data values. Based on the value for a particular observation, it should not have any priority. That is the thing. Handling imbalanced data with SMOT and near-miss algorithm in Python. In machine learning and data science, we often come across a term called imbalanced data distribution. Generally happens when observation in one of the class are much higher or lower than the other class. As machine learning algorithms tend to increase accuracy by reducing the error, they do not consider the class distribution. This problem is prevalent in examples such as fraud detection, facial recognition, etc. So there are mainly two algorithms that are widely used for handling imbalanced class distribution. One is SMOT and second one is near-miss algorithm. So SMOT stands for synthetic minority oversampling technique, oversampling. It is one of the most commonly used methods to solve the imbalance problem. It aims to balance class distribution by randomly increasing minority class examples by replicating them. It synthesizes new instances between existing minority instances and generates the virtual training records by mathematical means. Okay, so the problem is we need to convert it so that it is not a lot of variation is there, because the program will utterly fail if we have such type of situation. Okay, so this is the example for this. Similarly, you have near-miss algorithm. One is for oversampling and another is for undersampling. It aims to balance by randomly eliminating the majority class example. When instances of two different classes are very close to each other, we remove the instances of the majority class to increase the space between two classes. This helps in the classification problem. To prevent the problem of information loss in most undersampling techniques, near-neighbor methods are widely used. Okay, so to prevent the variation between two data, two observations which are supposed to be close, we try to go for these things. Okay, over sampling and undersampling. So how does this near neighbor method works? It finds the distance between all instances of the majority class and instances of the minority class. Then it is here the majority class is to be undersampled. The end instances of majority class that have the smallest distances are selected. If there are k instances, the nearest method will result in k into n instances of majority classes, and other observations are removed. Okay, there are several variations of applying the near-miss algorithm, version 1, 2 and 3. One is k closest instances, second one is k farthest instances, and third one is it works in 2 steps. For each minority class, their m nearest neighbors will be stored. Then finally the majority class instances are selected. So it is possible, many functions are available which we can use for overcoming this issue. Next one is dummy variable trap in regression models. In statistics, we deal with various kinds of data. This data can be quantitative or qualitative. Quantitative means we have a definite values of zeros and one. Qualitative means we have string values like we saw tall, height, like that. The numerical data can be easily handled in regression, but we can't use categorical data directly. It means to be transformed in some way. So we have seen one method is one-shot encoding, labeling. So using that we can convert it. Okay. The dummy variable trap is a scenario where there are attributes that are highly correlated and one variable predicts the value of others. When we use this technique for handling the categorical data, then one dummy variable can be predicted with the help of other variables. So it is one variable will be highly correlated with other variables. Using this leads to a dummy variable trap. So it should be the regression model should be designed to exclude one dummy variable. Okay, so using this method we can do it. So I have just listed what are all the Python libraries that are used in machine learning. NumPy, SciPy, Scikit, Learn, Theano, TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch, Pandas, Matplotlib. Okay, so just an overview of this. NumPy is a very popular Python library for large multi-dimensional array and matrix processing with the help of large collection of high-value mathematical functions. It is useful for fundamental scientific computations in machine learning, useful for linear algebra, Fourier transform, random number capabilities. High-end libraries like TensorFlow uses NumPy internally for manipulation of tensors. Okay, so this is an example Python program using NumPy for some basic mathematical operations. So creating two arrays, inner product of vectors, vector product, and printing it. Second library is SciPy. It's a popular library among machine learning enthusiasts as it contains different modules for optimization, linear algebra, integration, and statistics. There is a difference between SciPy and SciPy Stack. SciPy is one of the core packages that make up the SciPy stack. SciPy is also very useful for image manipulation. So this is a script using SciPy for image manipulation. So here resizing, coloring of images can be done with the help of the functions available in this SciPy, and we can make the machine learn. Scikit-learn is one of the most popular machine learning libraries for classical ML algorithms. It is built on NumPy and SciPy. Scikit-learn supports most of the supervised and unsupervised learning algorithm. Can also be used for data mining and data analysis, which makes it a very great tool for who is starting out with ML. So Scikit-learn, we have to really, if we work hard, we can definitely develop good algorithms or good programs for machine learning. Theano. Theano is a popular Python library that is used to define, evaluate, and optimize the mathematical expressions involving multi-dimensional array in an efficient manner. It is achieved by optimizing the utilization of CPU and GPU. It is used in unit testing and self-verification to detect and diagnose different types of error. It is a powerful library that has been used for computationally sensitive projects for a long time, but is simple and approachable enough to be used by individual for their own project. TensorFlow, it's again a very popular open source library for high performance numerical computation developed by the Google Brain team in Google. It's a framework that involves defining and running computation involving tensors. It can train and run deep neural networks that can be used to develop several AI applications. It is mainly used in deep learning research and application. So many people are trying to use this TensorFlow framework for their applications, high-end applications, which involve driverless cars and other things which are very performance intense. Keras. Keras is a very popular machine learning library for Python. It is a high-level neural networks API capable of running on top of TensorFlow, CNTK or Theano. It runs seamlessly on both CPU and GPU. Keras makes it really for machine learning beginners to build and design a neural network which can be used in many applications like character recognitions or scripts. Okay, scripts we have now so many ancient scripts. So identification of those scripts, converting into our language, for all those things, it is highly helpful. One of the best things about Keras is that it allows for easy and fast prototyping. PyTorch is again another library which is implemented in C with a wrapper in Lua. It has an extensive choice of tools and libraries that supports computer vision, natural language processing, and many more machine learning programs. It allows developers to perform computations on tensors with GPU acceleration and also helps in creating computational graph. Okay, so this is about PyTorch. So there are so many facilities available which can be used for our research work by exploring these things. Okay, and the most popular, pandas. So we are all familiar with this. It's a popular Python library for data analysis. It is not directly related to machine learning, as we know that the data set must be prepared before training. In this case, Panda comes handy as it was developed specifically for data extraction and preparation. It provides high-level data structures and wide variety of tools for filtering, for data extraction and preparation. Okay, so for grouping, combining and filtering data. One more library is the Matplotlib library for data visualization. When a programmer wants to visualize the patterns in data, we can use this, and it's a 2D plotting library used for creating 2D graphs and plots. A module named PyPlots makes it easy for programmers for plotting, as it provides features to control line styles, font properties, formatting axes, etc. It provides various kinds of graphs and plots for data visualization, wise histogram, error charts, bar charts, etc. I'll just list this alone. So Python provides many libraries which are helpful for developing our machine learning, and we all know that the future is going to be in machine learning. So it is high time that we all try to develop so much of expertise in this area, and these are all the libraries we have seen in detail. Some or you can see some brief notes on what is the use of these libraries: NumPy, SciPy, scikit-learn, Theano, TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch, Pandas, Matplotlib. So everywhere you can see we are having a surge of applications which are going to be used in machine learning, and with the development of applications we need to be well versed in using these things available so that we can develop a better model. Okay, so I think I'll stop here, and I will request Madam to give the presentation on the websites which I have shared with you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. We'll 2 minutes, ma'am. We will load the URLs. Ma'am, is it visible, ma'am?
Yeah, visible.
The shared screen.
Yeah. So this is machine learning example. I have just taken some 5 links which just gives us how the machine learning well. Okay, so this is the first one, number summation. Treat summation expression of two numbers as character sum sequence and let RNN sum them up. Okay, so the point is we are just going to add two numbers here, and these two numbers we are not going to use any CPU or the processor arithmetic unit for this. This calculation is being done. Of course, I have just taken this to show you the power of machine learning. So you can see here we have so this program has been developed using the recurrent neural network, RNN. So you can see they have this is just for learning and to see how we are how the machine learning works. So sir, you can type, madam, you can give some input for this. Is it summation?
Yes, I'll give certain inputs. And I'll click on calculate now.
Yeah.
Got these answers.
So they have given maximum 2 digits per number. So this calculation is taking place through recurrent neural networks. Okay, so one by one the value is consumed and the value is the output is coming. Okay, so this is an example where without the need of a processing system, without you can now visualize how the future is going to be without a need for a summer or what you say arithmetic unit in your thing. Of course we need the system for processing, but normally what we do, we just give this input in any programming language, we try to get the output by a normal simple program. But here without using that hardware unit, this calculation is taking place with the help of your neural network. So this is character 1 prediction, 2 prediction, 3 prediction. Because we have now only 2 digits at output, it is showing 2 predictions. So it takes sequence. Okay, one by one it takes the character and it sums based on the patterns which are used. Okay, so to just cut short, when you are when you are familiar with the programming language, so an addition program is the first and one of the easiest tasks that you will like to do. So here we can perform this is using any programming language, but using machine learning there are different techniques. Okay, for example, we can have a system where each as you see, when I give 23 plus 58, first operation may be to identify the character. Let us say we are thinking of a scheme where we try to find out the patterns when we add these two numbers. Okay, so we have to prepare a data set which will prepare for the computer's brain training. Let's make we can make a simple data set with two values and a sum. Okay, then normally when the training happens, we try to put all these data in a form of a CSV file, something like that. Then we can also use the Jupyter Notebook Python Scikit library to train the system. Okay, and then once it is trained, we can try to use that model by using the prediction. Okay, so this is one example of machine learning. And what I was telling is, one method is we train the system with numerical value patterns so that it is able to identify when you give a new input and it will store in the system. Or we can also have more advanced things where you can identify the characters and in each one and proceed in that manner. Okay, so your computer has learned to add two numbers with just data. Okay, we without giving the equations and other things. Okay, we can use the machine learning algorithms for doing this. So this is one example. The next one.
Yes, ma'am. Can you see the changes, ma'am?
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Wait, ma'am. I changes now.
Okay. So this is second machine learning experiment. Generates the classification tags for the images. So you can choose some image here, sir, or take a photo. So it is saying modem 51%.
Some other image, ma'am?
Yeah, some other.
Try with some other image?
Yeah, some other image. Cannot classify.
Any other particular type of images, ma'am?
No need. It's just a demo. So to give you an idea, for example, when I was attending one FDP on conducted by ICT Academy, they were able to identify people who are wearing masks. So latest they have done that. So you can select some things, some photo or. So if we are able to explore the source code for these type of things, it's an image. Okay, we need to choose one image.
Who's going?
Maybe some objects, sir.
What's in
1 minute, ma'am. I'll select the appropriate one.
Okay.
Ma'am, can you see the changes? I've selected some AICT's.
Yeah, it is saying website 88%.
Yes.
That's good. Okay. Okay, sir. So this is one example. So if we can study how this is done, okay, because we already have so many machine learning algorithms available in open source, we can exploit this and develop our new application. As I was telling, we were given a demo of when we on in online, like we were attending the FDP, and the organizer, he asked us to take a snap. That is at their end they have taken, and immediately they were able to tell which people were wearing the mask and who were all not wearing. So this is one application, like they have programmed to identify that there is something on our face which is a mask probably. Okay, so this is one example. So next one, sir. Next, learning experiments example. So sir, we can go for the next link, I'm saying. Sir, we will, yeah. The next one is this rock, paper, scissors game, which is given. Sir, you can play the game. Okay, so round one. So this is a very simple game which we used to play, something like a toss. So in instances where we go, there is also a story of a match where the referee arrived to the spot without a coin for a toss, and he asked the two team leaders to play this paper, rock, scissors. And after the match, he was removed, he was suspended or something like that. Okay, so here you know that you can have three things. This is rock, and so just can you scroll down? If you have a something like a V, it is a scissors. Okay, and this the center thing, it stands for paper. So rock, paper, and scissor. So this game is, the strongest one is rock. For example, if one person is showing the scissors and another one is a rock, rock wins. If one person shows the um, paper and another one the scissors, obviously the scissor wins. So it goes in many rounds, and you can play here, sir. Play the game. You give some input. Yeah, play the game. Okay, first round. I think you can somewhat minimize so that, okay, below this you will be given three choices. No, sir, you can choose that. One of that. Paper, rock, or scissors. Yeah. So you can see whenever you press, the computer also what it's thinking. So again, second, sir, any other press? So first, okay. You can change your options. So you can see you are playing this, it's also playing. Next one. Okay, you have chosen a paper, but the computer has played a scissor. 4, sir. Next one. So you can try 4, 5, 6. Let us have 6 rounds. Okay, rock. This is paper, this is rock. Next. So this has one. You can just see the score above, sir. What's the score? Okay. So you can see at the end of 6 rounds, you have won once. There has been a ties 2 times, and this computer is winning. So tried playing many times. Always this computer is only winning because there is so much of machine learning involved here. This, even though it's a simple game, you can see that this they have actually run this paper rock scissors game with the help of a robot with specialized camera. And before playing this, we have to say in sequence, because one person should not be late than the other. To have a fair play, everybody will say paper, rock, scissors, and then show the hand gesture. So this is what happens. So when you do that, the robot was able to identify based on the your position or your what to say. How you are keeping your hand, it was able to judge what your move will be. So it was able to win the human, with very high capable human who was strong enough and without any emotions, because sometimes people will be we can judge them from the way he expresses what he is going to do. For example, whenever you could have noticed some people, when they write, their tongue will be coming at the back, at the front in the mouth. Okay, just so these type of habits will be observed. So the computer will identify if it is going to do a scissors, what will be the facial expression of that, and how much time it is going to take, and what will be the hand position. So based on so many data, whenever you play this game, it is doing it. Of course, here it can easily find out from the hand position how we are doing. Okay, but in real time also, the robot developed to show machine learning. It was able to be very successful. So it is impossible to gain an advantage over a truly random opponent, because I am a random opponent. The computer should not know how I am going to, what will be my next move, whether it is a rock, whether it is a paper, or whether it is a scissors. However, by exploiting the weakness of non-random opponents, okay, so I may, by my practice, I may display some fashion, some character, some physical thing which will help in the computer to find out what is going to be my next move. Okay, so if you see, there are many tournaments, like you have a chess tournament played between different people and computer. Here also the tournaments are kept in foreign countries. So players, what they do is they prepare their sequence of 3 gestures prior to the tournament. Some people employ tactics or tricks to confuse the other player by making an illegal move. Okay, so for example, what they will do is when you say, instead of saying paper, and show the gesture of scissors. Okay, so we have to shout the name and then give the picture, give the gesture. So people try to confuse in that way also. Okay, so first thing is in beforehand they try to write the sequence which they are going to follow, or what they try to do is they try to confuse the opponent. Okay, but what happens is even in this case the computer is able to study from the patterns and find out which is going to be the next one, next step, okay, or next move. Okay, if the opponent is about to throw a rock, based on their lack of hand movement, or as both scissors and paper require the player to reposition their hand. Okay, so by seeing those things the computer will be able to identify, and and it is able to develop. And this can likewise be used to deceive an anticipating opponent by keeping one's fist closed until the last possible moment, leading them to believe that you are about to throw rock. Okay, so some tactics are also used, but again many times we find that the computer is winning, or maximum we have only a draw. Okay, so as a consequence of this rock paper scissors programming contest, many strong algorithms have emerged. Okay, so for example, there is a algorithm, there is a programming contest where it uses a designed compilation of strategy. For each strategy you can see the evolving of machine learning. Okay, so there are some strategies, and for each strategies it again has some meta strategies which will have something like guessing, second guessing, triple guessing. Okay, what will be the opponent thing. So like that it tries to use the frequency analysis, history matching. Okay, searches for a sequence in the past that matches the last few moves. So one strategy is try for a sequence which has been used frequently. Okay, so some people will have in mind, I will do a rock always, and when the computer changes I will try to change my thing. Okay, so like that the patterns are learned and they are exploiting that for other purpose. Okay, so even though this seems to be a very simple game, the machine learning involved here has evolved and has led people to develop very powerful algorithm. Okay, so actually this is used in many cases to settle the disputes also. Now for example this game, okay, it can be used in your machine analytics, business analytics. Okay, so you can say that if this is going to be a favorable situation for me. Okay, so always you can see that when paper and rock come, rock wins. So what is the business situation which is corresponding to that? So like that we can identify and we can try to improve it. Okay, so these are some of the things which we can identify, and this machine learning, it plays a very important role in helping the business analyst for doing or deciding some strategies. Okay, for example we can say that disruption overcomes. So whenever there is a disruption you have to be prepared for that. Okay, if you are not fast enough in your response you are not playing the game. The opponent has to be matched. Okay, fast analysis is the key to responding to the competition. Third one is learn the pattern of your opponent's behavior. Okay, whether what actions he is doing, is there a bias, are they fast or slow to adapt. Okay, I mean relate this to your business environment. Okay, don't get caught in rut yourself. Okay, you cannot do, you can see sometimes by repeating the same sequence you will fall in trap. Okay, so we have to identify that. Okay, how you play is very important. Okay, based on the sequences and what pattern will be the opponent's move. Okay, so based on that you have to decide. Okay, so this is the next thing I wanted to tell you. Sir, next link, sir. Okay, so this is sketch recognition. I think yesterday also we saw this. So you can draw any sketch based on the learning. Okay. Recognize. Sir, you can scroll down, the result will be down. So it says it can be a power outlet, it can be a hospital, it can be a microwave or a telephone, probably because you had kept that. Okay, so this is again one another drawing, sir. Anything? Sometimes we get unexpected things. What we draw is, but we have to appreciate it is able to identify so beautifully. Okay, so this is a diving board used in swimming. It can be a ladder, sailboat, can also be a syringe. Okay, so this is one example. And the last one, sir. Yeah, you can, in front of the camera, you can allow, sir, allow the camera. If you are using a mobile, yes, sir. So it's saying person 91, 92. You can also show some objects, sir, in the camera. Okay, sir. You can close this demo. So this is again one more object detection machine learning example. It is learning. So I happened to show my mobile phone. It was able to detect, and there was a thing hanging in my house. So it was able to detect that it was a umbrella. Okay, so we have to learn from these things and try to develop on this on our own. Um, so there's some real-time application which we have seen. Sir, is the screen visible, sir?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay.
But it's not in the slideshow mode. It is regular PPT is visible.
Now, sir? Sir, is it visible, sir?
Yes, ma'am. It is visible, but not in slideshow mode.
Oh,
Enable editing.
Enable editing.
sir, okay, sir.
Yes,
Still
ma'am.
it is in.
No, ma'am. It's clear. Hello, ma'am. It's visible, ma'am. It's
Are these
visible.
slides shown, sir, or the first? It's in the same mode.
No, ma'am. It's complete full screen mode.
Again,
Again, it
it has come back.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. You are audible. Please give a slideshow, ma'am. It was visible previously.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Ma'am is.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
please do share, ma'am. Share your PPT. You are audible, ma'am.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are very much audible. Please do share the PPT, ma'am. You stop sharing and you start sharing again, ma'am.
Ma'am, is it visible?
It is visible. Start a slideshow, ma'am.
Now, ma'am?
Yes, Paka.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, we'll just complete this session with by listing the machine
But
learning.
again, ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am. Your voice is too low.
Right, all means I don't know what's the issue. Am I audible now, ma'am?
No, ma'am.
No.
Your voice is too low.
Just give me a minute.
No, screen was okay, ma'am. Only audio.
I have actually made it as maximum only.
Maybe
mic problem.
Microphone or screen is okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Only your audio.
Sir, கொஞ்சம் ஆனியை உடனே வர சொல்லுங்க.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I am able to hear you, but
yeah, I think it's now clear, ma'am. Now it's clear.
Okay,
now it's clear. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So, just listing out the machine learning applications used nowadays in a very large manner for weather prediction. It is important to determine the rainfall for the effective use of water resources, crop productivity, and pre-planning. Linear regression to predict the amount of rainfall. It tells us how many inches of rainfall we can expect. So every day we are getting the information, and accordingly we can be prepared. Okay. So as we have seen, it's a linear approach. The relationship between a dependent variable and many independent variable. So this is done by plotting a line. We have the Python libraries which help us in doing it. So once the model is trained, we can give our own inputs for various columns such as temperature, dew point, pressure to predict the weather based on these attributes. Second one is identifying handwritten digits using logistic regression in PyTorch. So we can use this to find out. And I was telling that people are involved in research work in converting the Brahmi script and other ancient scripts into digitized data. So for which it is very helpful. So this is again the programming part. And third important thing is for health applications. Okay, so for health applications, this is a very famous example, Kaggle breast cancer Wisconsin diagnosis using logistic regression. It is given in the UCI machine learning repository. It is a data set of breast cancer patients with malignant and benign tumor. So logistic regression is used to predict whether the given patient is having malignant or benign tumor based on the attributes in the given data set. Okay. Then we also have the famous implementation of movie recommender system using Python. It seeks to filter, predict preferences according to the user choices. So it is used in many places like movies, music, news, books, research articles, search queries, social tags, and products in general. So recommender system produces a list of recommendations in any one of the two ways. One is collaborative filtering. It approaches, collaborating filtering approaches build a model from the user's past behavior as well as similar decisions made by other users. This model is then used to predict items that users may have an interest in. Okay, so it's a collaborative way based on my past experience and also people who have purchased similar things. Okay, they will try to buy what they have bought. Those things will be listed for me. Content-based filtering uses a series of characteristics of an item in order to recommend additional items with similar properties. Okay, like we said, suppose you want to have some artificial plants, all products related to that will be displayed to you. Content-based filtering methods are totally based on the description of the item and the profile of user preferences. It recommends items based on users' past preferences. So this is an example of the thing. Okay, movies recommendation. Okay. Then you have the famous SVM to recognize facial features in C++. Okay, so we have to collect the data and the implementation in C++ is given. How the training takes place. Next one is decision trees, fake coin plus puzzle. Solve the classic fake coin puzzle using decision trees. There are different variations. Try to solve on your own. Assume n equal to 8. Okay, so given a 2-pan fair balance and n identically looking coins, out of which one coin is lighter, we have to figure out the odd coin. How many minimum number of weighing are required in the worst case. So this is one example of using decision tree for solving. Next one is mainly nowadays used for credit card fraud detection to recognize fraudulent credit card transactions so that the customers of credit card companies are not charged for items that they did not purchase. Main challenges that are involved are enormous data, imbalanced data, data is mostly private, misclassified data, adaptive techniques used against the model by the scammers. And how to tackle these challenges? It must be simple and fast enough. Imbalance can be dealt with in properly using some methods. And we have to protect the privacy of the user. To make it more simple, some tweaks we can have a new model up and running to deploy. Okay, so these are some of the challenges. So this is what I have prepared for this FDP, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. I will complete my session now. Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's it, sir. I have completed.
Yeah, we'll ask for the queries, ma'am. We'll enable general suggestions, queries, whatever it is. We'll just allow the mics for attendees so that they can present their views, as well as if any queries are, they can get clarified with that. All participants, we have allowed your microphones. You can unmute and you can go ahead with your questions or anything.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Sarika, ma'am, you are audible.
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you for giving me such opportunity. Thank you, ma'am. Your session was very good. I want to know about machine learning algorithms, or I want to know about which algorithms are suited for crop detection method. Machine learning algorithm I am asking about. If we want to detect more crop production, then how it will be, we can say that which type of machine learning algorithm can be used for such kind of things?
Madam, I think your problem is not classification, but you want to find out the parameters which is going to help you to increase the yields. So in that case, you can go for using the not classification.
Okay. So for classification purpose, ma'am, if I want to use some machine learning algorithms, so which algorithm will be suited for machine learning, ma'am?
See, you can go for SVM, which is very best, ma'am, and faster. But
okay.
Now we have some things which are being explored, and we have using this neural networks with a large amount of data, we can have better predictions, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Other participants, any feedback, review about the sessions? Yes, any questions, queries, or feedback about the sessions can be given. You can unmute yourself and you can talk. So we are enabled your microphones. Thank you all participants for attending the sessions. I thank Dr. J. Nafiza ma'am for giving us wonderful insight into machine learning in big data. It's a privilege to have you with us for the 2 sessions, ma'am. Thanks a lot for your wonderful session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful opportunity. I thank the participants for their patient listening. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Dear participants, you have to join for the session 2 at 11:20.